Okay.
Veronica.
Hi, Katie.
Hi. Welcome to my podcast, the Barefoot Edition.
Yes, thank you.
Show our beautiful toes.
Thank you for taking your shoes off, joining the hippie world.
I am a hippie at heart too.
I
Don't
know
worry.
I know you are.
This is all a facade.
Exactly. We have both sides.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Many sides. So thank you for doing this and letting me interrogate you.
Yes, thank you so much for the invitation. I'm really excited and I'm proud of you.
Me
This
too.
is really exciting.
When I started talking to you, and because each time I see you, it's like a quick hello, okay, let's get ready. We have this.
Right.
It's usually for an event.
Right.
And so this time that we actually got to sit down and you caught me up on everything you're doing and what you've done and what happened, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to interview you. I need to know how this took place.
I know.
So one of the things that, and my inspiration for this podcast to begin with, is how people have a plan and they set out their whole thing. This is what I'm going to accomplish in life. And then life has another plan for you.
That's right.
But somehow it always works out.
Yeah.
And I think that for me is the most fascinating part. It's how life takes so many turns,
Yeah.
how people live in different countries, how people go from nothing to something, how people go from being bullied to being the most admired person in the world. Like all these different ups and downs and how it happens. It's fascinating. So I want to know everything about you in more details.
Yeah.
But let's start off with one of the things that really caught my attention is how you went from being a very successful advertising executive to all of a sudden just leaving that industry altogether and pretty much restarting. So tell me about this journey that you were on, what happened, and how you ended up where you are now.
Yeah. Well, it has definitely been a journey for sure. And it is that whole idea that you do have this one plan for yourself. And I got into advertising right out of college, and I've worked with some amazing ad agencies in New York City and LA and here in Miami. And I've met amazing people, worked on top brands such as Pepsi and Diageo, McDonald's, State Farm, GM. So it's just been an amazing experience, but it's also very much a burnout industry. And I've tried leaving it a couple times because I do get a little bit burnt out. I left. I don't know if you remember when I did the cupcakes. Do you remember I had an alcoholic cupcake company?
Oh, yes, I do.
I started that because I got really burnt out many years ago. And I was going through some personal things, and I was going through a divorce, and I just sort of needed a transition in my life. And I started this alcoholic business cupcakes called Sweet and Tipsy. I still make them off and on. But then that sort of transformed into many other different things. And I ended up having to go back into advertising, which is it's a really great career. It's something you can always fall back on.
What was your position?
I was in the account role. Most recently, I was an account director, but it's been sort of within the account side the whole time. And
but so that would be like account management?
Yeah, account management would be, yeah.
So not on the creative side?
No, okay. Not on the creative side. And so I just went through sort of some personal struggles and kind of hit rock bottom during that time. And so that's the first time like everything kind of came crashing down. And as I was slowly starting to pick my life back up, I found yoga and meditation. And that sort of started me on this spiritual journey. And it was just like a newbie spiritual journey, kind of like having my little mini awakening after the typical bathroom floor crying moments. And so I went back into advertising, trying to get my life back together, but there was just always something missing for me. Like I felt like for me to succeed in something. And I feel like I did as much as I could there, but there was something that I never really wanted to go too far down. Like I never saw myself as like the VP of accounts or the VP of just because there was something always holding me back because my heart wasn't into it. But it was something that I could always fall back on. So I went back into advertising, and then I just sort of again fell into this place where I just wanted more meaning in my life, and I wanted to have something that I felt much more passionate about, that I could use my journey that I've been on to help others. It was a very lonely journey, and I wanted others to feel that they weren't alone. And I felt like I just wasn't connecting with that within advertising. And so I started to, use the time that we have here in this School of Earth to find out what other ways can I dive into these passions of mine, and then sort of brought me to kind of this journey. I don't know if you want me to get into that.
Yeah. So, well, I guess burnout is such a big buzzword that is being used nowadays. And even right now, I recently read an article on CEOs and the burnout trend with CEOs. And it seems to me like people in corporate America are finding that it's not worth the financial reward with the stress, and basically at the expense of not living their life the way that they want to live it.
Right.
And they're quitting.
Yep.
And if they're not quitting, they're quiet quitting.
Yeah.
And it seems like what I want to know is what is happening. I haven't worked in corporate America in a while. I used to work in advertising, and
I didn't know that.
You didn't know?
No.
Oh, yeah. And everything was an emergency.
Yes.
And it's hilarious because that's the furthest thing from a true emergency, but everything was on a tight deadline because when the campaign went out, it had to be on the same day with, print and TV and radio, and everything had to go out in the schedule that was proposed and said and done. So you experienced it? What's happening?
Yeah, I think it is. So I had my second burnout a couple years ago, or was it last year, that ended up in the hospital, and which really kind of changed everything for me from that point. But I think it depends. Like I was so all into an industry that was no longer fueling me. And so I was giving everything as much as I could, but there was something that felt so empty. And so for me, and I know everybody has burnout for different reasons. Some people aren't doing that work-life balance and not putting themselves as a priority. We're in this whole, I know it's changing a little bit, but we're in this whole epidemic of team no sleep, and it's like hashtag team no sleep. Like, why are we proud of that?
Or stress culture.
Yeah, exactly. So there's this whole vibe of, putting all you can into your job and being the first one there and then being the last one to leave. And I think with the pandemic and people working from home, that's probably shifted a lot more than what it used to be. And so for me, it was just, I could not continue giving so much of myself to something where I just wasn't connecting anymore. Like it just felt untrue to me. And I know that having had that, dark night of the soul moment where you start seeing life so differently, I know we didn't come to this world to just work,
right?
And that's sort of how my life was for so many years. And I know we came to have a deeper meaning and build deeper connections with people and, change ourselves and change others. So I wanted to make that more of my focus. And it wasn't until ending up in the hospital that I realized, I can't do this anymore. And there's this whole sense sometimes of we need to take so much control of our lives and we need to do all these things and we need to check all these boxes and we have to be, married by 30 and kids by 35 and, retired by, we have all these rules that we set up for ourselves, but why? And, on this spiritual journey, I've learned, and also, I've gotten into astrology as well, that our souls came here for different lessons. So your soul is on a completely different track than my soul. And my soul maybe didn't come here to have a traditional, family and kids and white picket fence. And that's okay. And maybe my soul didn't come here to learn its lessons by being a VP in accounts and advertising. And that's okay. But the struggle is when we compare ourselves to other people's journeys. And it's like, why is this person getting all this success and why am I struggling and why am I not finding this? And it's learning to sort of understand that, my soul came here for different lessons.
I was reading this article that a surgeon, they want to put out a surgeon general, like in the cigarettes, how they have the surgeon general message for social media.
Yeah.
Talking about the warnings.
Yeah.
On mental health that social media can have. And I think a big part of that has to do with the comparing your life with the life of others.
Right. We actually did at our agency when the Surgeon General put out that report on loneliness and the impact of social media. At my last agency, I was global head of wellness, which is actually a funny story about manifesting because, can I do a sidebar of this story?
Yeah, go.
Okay. So, I'm back into advertising, but now I want to do something within mental health and wellness. It's just such a big passion of mine. And so the agency that I worked at was a global agency. They had offices all over the world. And they had, small wellness committees. And I was like, this is amazing. Like a wellness committee, this is totally, up my alley. So I joined, I became a co-chair with somebody and we started planning all these activities and I started envisioning. Now I saw a path for myself. Whereas before I was like, there's no way I want to do like a VP. Like I'm good at this level. Now it's like, I want to be global head of wellness of like this whole agency. And so I kept like talking about it to everybody. Oh yeah, I want to be the global head of wellness. And the global head of HR who would, if this position were ever to happen, I saw her at a meeting and I said, hey, I'm really into this. We're doing all these things within, the office already. I know we have wellness committees all over. Who's leading it? Like, I'd like to lead it. Is anyone bringing everyone together? If that's on you, like, I'll take it off your plate. Like, I'd like to be global head of wellness. And I kept saying it so much to so many people. She finally allowed me to start putting this together. I'd set up quarterly meetings and I started organizing things and reaching out to people. And then one time the New York office calls me and they're like, hey, Vettel, so I hear you're the global head of wellness. And I was like, yes. And so they were like, we're doing a panel discussion on the Surgeon General's report on loneliness. Would you like to host it? And I was like, sure, yeah. And so we did a whole panel on that. And we polled all the employees and the epidemic is definitely there. People want to talk about it. And that's a thing with corporate America. We're so trained that you don't talk about this stuff,
Yeah.
And so the fact that we're now opening those doors, people want to talk about it. People want to feel heard and validated and seen. And it doesn't matter just because they're in corporate America. Like times have changed.
Yeah.
And now people want to be able to have a place where they can discuss this, especially with after the pandemic where things had changed so much. So I love that this is the trend that we're moving towards.
And so if you are the global head of wellness and you finally reached your dream title, what happened?
What happened? I got laid off.
Ah, okay. In that position?
So it was always like a volunteer. It was never
Okay.
a paid position.
Okay.
It was always just on paper. Although I did manage to get my picture on the website. It was like, go ahead. So, agency
So
life.
for your other position.
So that, because that's a thing right now, like I believe the future is there, but it's really hard for businesses to set aside funding for that role. And if there are any budget cuts, those are the first roles that are going to get cut.
Sure.
So at this point, it wasn't yet a paid position. It was just kind of like a volunteer thing. But it opened my eyes to the potential of where we're moving towards.
Yeah.
And the fact that this idea of corporate wellness is now going to come up stronger than just, someone from HR leading it or employees putting together a committee. Like, I feel like corporate wellness is where and not just corporate wellness, but this idea of like mental health and wellness within being a more discussed topic, whether it's at work, at home, things like that. And so it opened my eyes to that and realized, okay, this is what I want to do. And now I need to get credentials for it. And which is what led me to getting the master's degree.
Ah.
Yeah.
So, okay, I want to go to that. But before that, I want to know, was there something that happened specifically that led to your breakdown?
Yes.
You don't have to share if you don't want to.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. I think it was a lot of things. I don't think there was one specific item, but there's this in spirituality we always talk about, and Lao Tzu talks about the middle way in his book, the Tao Te Ching, finding that middle way. And sometimes you can put too much energy on controlling things and not allowing. And I think that I was at a place where I was so fired up about, all these opportunities that I wanted to do and all these things that I wanted to make happen, and still trying to manage this job in advertising that I wasn't really fully happy in, but it was, paying the bills and, personal things happening. And so just so much kind of put together that I felt like I was just exerting myself. And then, my house flooded and my two dogs had passed away.
Oh
My dad passed away. It was a year of tremendous purification that I hit a point where I was traveling for work for an event that I was leading, and I couldn't even make it. I ended up in the hospital. And then I had to take a month leave of absence and just to kind of regroup and get myself back together. And then because I was in a job that paid well and I knew what I was doing, but my heart wasn't into it, and, universe and God, or whatever name you want to put it, knew that I was never going to leave because I was too comfortable, pushed me out. And so I got a blessing and got laid off in December, which has been just godsend. It's been godsend.
All of that happened in 1 year?
In about a year and a half. Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. I had my dog of 14 years pass away, my dog of 17 years that passed away. Then 3 months later, my dad passed away. Then my house flooded. And then I ended up in the hospital. And then I got laid off.
Oh my gosh. So when all this happens at the time that it was happening,
Yeah.
did you feel like these are all the signs pushing me towards something greater? Or were you like, my life is about to end? Or like something bad's going to happen?
I think I was in the middle. I had already been on this journey, and I had gone to India for the first time right after my dogs passed away and right before my dad passed away. So right after my dogs passed away, I had an opportunity to go to India. I was invited to an Indian wedding, and I took a month off to go and spend in India, sightsee. And I've been on the spiritual journey. So I was like, well, obviously I'm going to India. I got to go to an ashram.
Yeah.
And so I went to Rishikesh and found this ashram. And I found it because I had a vision of this Buddha statue that's at this ashram 2 years prior to that. And so when I was looking for ashrams to go to, I saw this picture on their Facebook page. And I was like, whoa, that is the Buddha statue that I had a vision of 2 years ago. Since I didn't know which one to go to, I was like, well, I guess it's a sign. I might as well go to this one. And it's in Rishikesh, and it changed my life. The moment I arrived, I knew I had been there in a past life, in a previous, I had been there. I felt immediately comfortable with everybody. It was an experience like no other. And I was there about 2 weeks, came home. Then my life went through a huge purification. And so when I came home,
Purification, is when things kept
just
going.
I kept losing everything.
Right. Oh.
Yeah, I kept losing everything. And when I came home, my teachers at the ashram were like, focus on your practice, do your meditations, do your breathing, whatever. And so I was trying to do all this, and things just kept losing. And I remember in a state of panic, I called them, and they're like, "Oh, very good, Veronica. You're going through a purification." I'm like, "This is horrible. This is absolutely horrible." But I was releasing things that were, holding me back, or releasing things that were no longer serving a purpose for me, releasing things that I no longer needed, and so I went through all that at the hospital, got laid off. And I was like, okay, well, I wasn't going to go back to India because I had taken so much time off from work already because of everything that had happened.
Right.
And so when they laid me off, I was like, well, I'm booking another trip. And so I went and I spent the entire month at the ashram again, the same one. And I got initiated, and I became part of their Himalayan yoga lineage tradition.
Wow.
And then now I'm coming back with the homework of knowing, because I was there, I'm like, so you told me all I had to do was meditate every day and my life would be perfect. What happened? And they're like, what happened when you got up from your meditation chair? How was your meditation throughout the day? How did you stay in stillness throughout the day when life was happening? Because meditation isn't the 20, 30, 40 minutes that you're sitting on the ground or in the chair. Meditation is using that practice and be able to stay in stillness throughout your day. And so it's like, oh yeah, no, I kind of lost it.
Right.
So that's my practice this year. And the homework was, and when anything happens, just focus on your practice.
And when you said the first time you went to the ashram and it changed your life forever, how did it change your life when after that the purification happened?
Because I think I needed to go through that. I think I needed to be pushed to develop and grow. When things happen that you lose people you love, or you go through relationship issues, you lose jobs, you lose your property, you lose all these things that you identify yourself with. And then it leaves you standing with, well, then who am I? Who am I without this job? Who am I without my family? Who am I without my house? Who am I without my partner? Who am I without? Well, I lost all those things, and I'm still here and I'm still me. And so I think when you're able to go through all those losses and still stay standing, and still, I'm not saying that I'm, this perfect, Dalai Lama by any means. I still get thrown off, but for the most part, I'm not as thrown off as I used to be. And I no longer can identify myself with things that can be lost. It still hurts, but it's not something that throws me because I've already gone through that process.
So it sounds to me, though, that the purification process is what changed you more than going to the ashram itself.
But the ashram set me up with the tools to be able to.
Okay.
Yeah,
so the ashram gave you these tools
to set me up for this phase of my life that I was going to be experiencing.
What were the tools?
The practice on the meditation and the breathing. Yeah. The understanding. At the ashram, you live it's a daily ashram life experience. And at this particular ashram, from 5 a.m. till 10 o'clock at night, and you're meditating throughout the day, you're learning scriptures and philosophies and things like that. And everything you do throughout the entire day is to help you stay longer and sit longer and more comfortable within meditation. Because at the end of the day, how you are in meditation is how you can be and apply throughout the rest of your life. So if you sit in meditation and, you get a distraction, you get a thought, and you get up. Oh, I got to do this. Okay, I'm going to sit down again. And then you have another thought, and then you get distracted, and then the phone rings. If you can't sit in that stillness, that's how you tend to be throughout the rest of the day. That's how you tend to live your life.
Right.
And so the tools that I received from the ashram gave me this practice that I came home and had this purification year. And yeah, it threw me, of course. But at the end of the day, I still came back to my practice. And so when I arrived, I had this image of myself when I went back to India the second time, crawling through the doors, help me. I did what you told me to do. And they're like, okay, now phase 2, take this practice. And so it's they help you kind of develop your practice and to go deeper within it. And I've seen the results now. Like I came back this year, you know, and I still don't have a job. My house just got flooded again, you know. I'm still working on things, but I graduated with my master's. I'm much more centered and focused. I have, you know, faith and positive about where my life is going. And when I get thrown, I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen? I just remember, focus on my practice and trust. And I just trust in the journey that my soul has taken, and that whatever happens, this too shall pass, and it's gonna be okay.
So have you come to any sort of idea of what your soul's calling is, or the lessons that you came here to learn?
Yeah. So astrology helped a lot with that as well. As you know, I really...
Do you learn that at the ashram?
I didn't, no.
Oh, okay.
This was something I did on my own. I was, did level 1 and 2 certification with Deborah Silverman Astrology. She's amazing. What sign are you, by the way?
Libra.
Of course you are. Of course you are. Libra. 2 air signs, communicating as we should, Gemini.
Yeah.
So I know that I always go to, when I have a choice or something that I need to do, I always say, what feels warm to me? What feels warm to my soul? And the more I get into this path, it feels so warm to me. I know I could always go back to advertising if I need to sort of like get myself back on my feet. But what I know my purpose here really is to use my journey and use the experience that I had to help uplift others, because when I went through all this, it was really hard. You know, I did a lot of that on my own. And so I want to be able to help uplift others, help teach this meditation practice with them, help them to get a better understanding, because so often we're taught externally. We're taught externally, like how to deal with others. But when in our lives are we taught how to look at ourselves, how to really get to know ourselves, and how to take time to sit with ourselves?
And deal with ourselves.
And deal with ourselves. Never. We're all day long, we're constantly getting, you know, inputs. And we have a moment of silence and people are on their phones. Like there's no time to just sort of sit in stillness and really allow those thoughts to calm down.
Yeah.
And so I want to be able to use what I've learned that's helped me tremendously. The change in my emotional swing is tremendous. So I want to help others do that. And I also, you know, with this master's degree in happiness, so we're through Centenary University and Dr. Tal Ben Shahar, he developed this program. We're the first cohort in the U.S. to graduate with a master's degree in happiness studies. And it's all based on the foundation of philosophy, psychology, and leadership, and how to find whole being happiness. And so I want to use that to sort of within the space of like mental health and wellness at work, at schools, and then also sort of share on the personal side through maybe a YouTube channel, maybe a podcast. And as I think I told you, I just secured some names, so you heard it here first.
Yeah.
And hopefully I'll have something up by the time this airs. But so I'm calling it Spiritual in Action. So what it basically is that when you say you're spiritual, like you always think you have to do all these things. And it's true. Like the spiritual path does require you to take certain actions, but it also requires you to allow.
Yeah.
And there's that space that I mentioned earlier about that Lao Tzu calls the middle way, where you're desiring. He even says it in the first verse, which is my favorite verse of the Tao Te Ching. Desire, free from desire, I see life's true mystery. With desire, I only see the manifestations. Mm-hmm. And so it's the balance of wanting something and then allowing it, and desiring it and giving it space to grow, planting a seed and then watering and giving it time to grow. And so it's taking action, but also inaction, and giving it space and giving it time to flourish. So it's called Spiritual in Action. And I think I'm going to start just sort of sharing some of these things on YouTube, sharing some of the breathing techniques, maybe doing some sound healing, doing some meditation practice and sharing some stories, and hopefully be able to help others kind of understand that sometimes life doesn't go as we planned it. And when things fall apart, it's because they're coming back together in a better way that's more in alignment with who you are. And something I always say is, it made peace from all the broken pieces, because things just kind of shatter, but you're able to put it together like the Japanese art of kintsugi. You put it back together with gold and it makes it more valuable.
That's what I always heard with the Japanese. That's what I was thinking about at the same time.
Yeah.
And I tried to do that with a broken glass the other day at my house, and I was like, "No, this isn't going to work. I think I just have to literally toss it."
I actually did it, and it's really nice. It's really nice. Yeah.
But do you use, like, was it a glass of water, like a glass?
It was a ceramic bowl.
Oh, okay. So you could actually still use it.
Well, I did a retreat where we practiced kintsugi. And so we had plain ceramic bowls, we decorated them, and then we broke it, we decorated it, glued it back together, and then added gold leaf to all the seams. Yeah.
I would love to see a picture of that.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
So I love the idea for your podcast. I think it's much needed forever ago, especially now.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of the Taylor Swift song that, you said, like, how to deal with so you hear a lot about how to deal with others, but you don't learn about how to deal with yourself.
Right.
And it reminds me of that Taylor Swift song that says, "It's me. Hi, I'm the problem."
Yes.
It's me. And I always say that in my head when I am experiencing a moment of contrast, which is what I call it.
Yeah.
When things are not going my way and I'm not where I want to be. I'm like, okay, it's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. What's going on?
I love that. That's why we're soul sisters.
Yeah.
Yes. That's so self-reflective of you. Yeah.
And actually, it happened this past week. And I want to say we're always learning how to deal with yourself, right? And if you're actively into it. And I have been actively searching and reading and learning how to deal with myself, and which really means, how does the mind work? How do emotions work? What fuels us? What should be my focal point? Right. So that I can get what I want out of my life. Mm-hmm. And so I've been actively studying and practicing this new way of living my life after learning how it works for the past maybe 7 years. And every time I mess up, I'm always like, oh my gosh, I know better. If you know better, you do better. Mm-hmm. Why do I keep messing up? And I'm like, okay, Katie, relax. You're a human being. Right. Just because you learn this and just because you've practiced it enough times, you're still going to mess up. Right. And it's okay. Right. And I have to give myself grace, and I have to pick myself back up and just keep going. Mm-hmm. So last week, I thought it was a brilliant idea to invite my husband for Father's Day to a Red Hot Chili Peppers concert. Oh. And I said, I'm going to get us really nice seats, and we're going to go to the show. And I had this vision of how it was going to happen. And we were going to be there, like, without our kids. We were going to just enjoy ourselves and put our hands up in the air and be like, oh my God, it is so great. And then listen to the Red Hot Chili Peppers CD on repeat on the way home. And it was going to be amazing. And we were late to the concert. And for me, something happens inside my body when I feel I'm going to be late to something. Mm-hmm. I go insane. In my head feels like it's going to burst. And so we are an hour and a half late to this concert. Not to mention it was in West Palm Beach, so we had to drive an hour and a half. I was miserable in the car. Such a Debbie Downer. There was nothing that can get me out of this funk. And I go, oh my gosh, Katie, what are you doing? You are ruining the experience. You're setting the tone for our outing, all because you're late. Mm-hmm. Okay, yes, you're late. But what's going to happen? Like, it is what it is. Just be with it. Right.
Because you being upset isn't going to help anything.
Exactly. Right. Like, just deal with where you're at and make part of the experience, the drive.
Right.
And I was trying and I was trying, but I couldn't.
Yeah.
And we're like 5 minutes away from the venue. And I looked at him and I go, I know it's me.
Hi, it's me.
Hi, it's me. And I said, all that matters, this is my internal dialogue, but I said it externally to see if it would actually like snap into me. And I go, all that matters, all I wanted from this experience today was for me and you to be together and have a good time. And all that matters is that we're together. It doesn't matter that we're late. It matters that we're together.
It's beautiful.
And then finally I started,
talking yourself down.
Yeah, I started talking myself down the ledge and I was doing better. And, and eventually it was unfortunately too late for me to make it right. So the concert essentially, by the time that I was finally like, okay, I can do this, it was over. I was like, oh my gosh, what have I just done?
Right.
I like blew all this money and like the whole experience was like totally not my vision in my mind. And I was like, you know what? This isn't the first. This isn't the last.
Yeah.
It's just what it is. This was today. It doesn't mean this is tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And then last weekend, we had a great weekend to compensate for that lost night. Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? Forget it. And social media would have said otherwise, because had I posted the video of the concert and us right before the whole breakdown, it would have come out like, oh my gosh,
they're having such an amazing
Katie
time.
is so lucky.
Right.
Look at her. I'm so jealous.
Right.
Totally not the case.
No, we just tore each other up.
Yeah, exactly. So,
well, like our professor taught us, permission to be human.
Yes.
Sometimes we have to give ourselves permission to be human because it's, you ask for these challenges. This is what you asked for. You asked for these learnings and you're going to receive them. If you ask for patience, you're going to receive opportunities to be patient.
Yeah. So what would you tell yourself when you were going through this moment? So I want to know like the before and after. So when your two dogs passed away, which was before you left to the ashram for the first time.
Right.
How did you handle that, not knowing what you know now? And then having to go through an even tougher loss, which is the loss of your father, and how you handled that. What did the ashram teach you, and how did you handle it before, and then how did you handle it after?
So it was definitely hard, both of them, but I did have a special connection with my first dog, Louie, who was 17. And when he passed away, I wasn't home. I was traveling. And it was very tragic how he died. And when nobody wanted to tell me because everybody knew how obsessed I was with this dog, still am. And that broke me. I could even cry thinking about him. I love that dog so much. I love both of them. Lola, I love you too. But losing Louie.
There is a favorite.
Moms say there aren't favorites. There always is a favorite. My brother's my mom's favorite. I'm okay with that.
It's a Colombian thing.
Exactly.
I think it is.
You got it. So it broke me. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Months. I had to leave. I couldn't even be in the house because it was so quiet without hearing his little paws on the floor. So I think I left for like 3 months because at that time I was working remotely.
You leave?
I went to visit friends. I went to see a friend in Washington. I had a lot of miles because I traveled a lot for work. Went to Washington, went to LA, went to Mexico, went to Colombia. Just kind of went and stayed because I couldn't stay home. And I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how I got through that one. That one really, really hurt. So then I talked a lot about it at the ashram. And they helped me understand, which they truly believe. In fact, in the yogis, when they talk about somebody, dying, they say they transition or they cast off their body in the sense that our souls are really here, that what's matter, these meat suits and these bodies are just a cloak of something that we wear. And we can just sort of, when we're done with the spiritual lessons that we need to learn in this body. I'm going to cast that off and then go into another one. We can get into debate about, what different people believe, but to me that resonated.
Yeah.
That our souls came here to learn different things, that it can only be accomplished in this school of earth through different bodies. And so it helped me to understand that Lou's tiny little white 17-year-old fluffy body was ready to transition. And he, energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed. And so the energy of Louis, I still feel all the time. And sometimes I'm like, Lou, I want to see you in the clouds. And I'll have to show you a pic. I actually literally saw him in the clouds.
Through the shape of the clouds?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
It's his side profile, and he's like this. And so then when I came home, and then about a month after I arrived is when my dad transitioned. And I sort of, when I was with him at the hospital, he had been sick, he had a stroke, and I was telling him, I'm like, I had this sort of lesson from the ashram, and I said, Dad, it's okay. Like, it's okay, go look for Louis. He's over there with you. Like, this is your body's done enough, ya puedes soltar. Like, you can just let it go. And then he passed away that night, a couple hours later. And so it sort of helped me it still hurt. I ended up getting this really deep pain in my chest from just sort of all the loss, I think. But I think it helped me to process his death, because him and I were really close. Like, my mom and my brother are close, and my dad and I were really close. Yeah. And so it helped me process his death in a different way that didn't, throw me to the ground like Lou's did. Mm-hmm. Like, Louis was really, really tough. It doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. Of course it still hurts, because you miss that physicalness of that person. But if you can understand that on a deeper level, the soul, the lessons that my dad's soul wanted to learn were complete in his body. Yeah. And I wanted him to feel free to continue learning his lessons in another form. Yeah. And so that really helped me.
So it was more the saying that inside you constantly, that helped you kind of get through each day.
Yeah, I think it's just the bigger understanding of it all. Mm-hmm. I think it was more, sometimes we're so, I remember I was asking my teacher at the ashram something, and we were walking in the grounds, and he just stopped, and because they'll never answer like a question directly. Mm. And
sometimes I hate that. It's like, you always
just give me the answer,
soulful answer that then you still have to think about what you're going to come up with. I'm like, just give it to me.
They want you to think. They want you to sort of have the answers for yourselves. They never want you to see them as a crutch. In fact, they push you out of the ashram if you stay too long, because they want the learnings aren't here. They want you to learn it in your real life.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so we're walking, and he bends down, and he just pulls a blade of grass with an ant on it. And he said, it's not going to be as wise as he said it, but something to the effect of, this, to the ant, this blade of grass is like a mountain. But to us, it's this tiny little piece of grass.
Yeah.
And I was like, I got it.
Yeah.
I got it. Sometimes we're so narrowed in on our focus. Oh, I lost my job. I lost this. I lost that. But it's when we take a step back and see the bigger picture. And I think that, to me, is what the ashram helped me do, is take a step back and see a bigger picture of life overall, of why we're here, of our journey, and what we're doing to sort of help this evolution.
Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now, has this one part in the book that I always try to remember once a month, because it talks about when a woman is on her period or she's PMSing, the emotions that she feels seem so real, and everything that she's experiencing seems like it's that big of a deal. And when a woman is able to manage her emotional state in that specific time, when her mind is feeling like it's bigger than what it actually is, and is able to act in a way that is where it actually, at a level where it should be and not where she thinks it is, a woman's consciousness grows, like multiplies. It like exponentially can grow. Like your level of consciousness can grow if you're able, during the moment of a woman going through PMS, conquer those feelings. Yeah. Which, by the way, TMI, but the day of the concert, I was PMS.
So it wasn't your fault.
I totally failed. I did not grow in my consciousness journey. I kind of stayed a little stuck there.
Sorry,
but
you have next month.
I have next month to work on it. But it reminds me of this. What do you call these pictures when you see on Instagram? They're not memes. They're like, what are they?
Reels, pictures, stories.
It was a post. Okay. Yes. I saw this post that had 6 circles, all full, like just solid yellow circles. And then 6 circles under and somewhere with like full of yellow, like in a low, like, oh my gosh, how do I describe this? The circles were not filled all the way. Each circle, each of the 6 circles, one was like a quarter fill, another one was like half fill, another one was, different fills. And it was saying how you feel most of the time during situations where it's like the circles are all full. They're like, that's how big the deal, like that's how big of a deal it is to you, but what it actually is.
Right.
Like,
that's beautiful.
Very little, like it's not that deep. It's not that important. Right. And it's like what you were saying, it's like perspective. In each of our lives, we think that what we're experiencing is the worst thing. It's our whole life. It's what the only thing that matters. And what I usually try to remember when I feel that way is I try to make myself remember how small I am in the universe. Like we're literally a speck of dust.
Yeah.
Like, and so when you think about that, like really, like all my world is my own world. And then when you see these images that NASA, I always get that word messed up.
NASA.
It's the Hispanic.
NASA.
NASA. Oh, when NASA puts out, is that really how you say it? NASA.
It's like the American way, NASA.
NASA. When NASA puts out these pictures, they're of the
Earth.
What is that thing in the satellite in space, that new one? The Hubble telescope, but it has
Hubble?
Yeah, but there's like a newer one.
Oh, I don't know.
Anyways, one of those that takes pictures of just random space, and it's like tens of thousands of galaxies, and inside each galaxy are all these different worlds, not including all the stars. I'm like, oh my gosh. And here we are in this one little ball floating on Earth.
Worried about our boss.
Worried about work.
Worried about sending an email. Like, no.
So then I wonder, what are we doing with our lives?
Right.
What are we just letting the days go by?
Right.
What are we doing with it?
Right.
And then I heard you when you were talking about work. And I see a lot of people work so much. And I wonder why. I really, truly do. Like when you were working all those hours that you were working and knowing your spirit, that you're a hippie at heart, did you not ask yourself, like, why are you working so hard? Like, what is this all for?
Yeah.
And was there a part of you secretly that was like, what am I trying to run away from? Was there any truth to that? Or were you just like on automatic with nothing?
I think it's just that mentality of just like, we're so ingrained of like, get a job, make a lot of money, buy a house, like all these steps that you need to take to succeed in life, and which is, again, fine. Like, try telling a Capricorn not to work. Like a Capricorn's all about work. Like some people came into this life for that reason. And, but I think that's where you have to take time to really get to know yourself. And if there's a reason why you are no longer finding fulfillment in what you're doing, explore that. What is it about that is feeling empty to you? What is that you like to do? What brings you joy? What feels warm to you? Because your soul is trying to tell you something, that you're not here just to do that. And that was for me when I got to that point. And that's why I believe so much in, while painful, these transitions can be endings. While it's painful, I believe so much in that because it's life's beautiful way of like kicking you out of a situation that you're not meant to be in. And so the suffering comes when we want to grab on and stay on that. Oh my God, I lost my job. Oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm just going to get another job in advertising. Well, no, like I can't continue to go down that path that the universe has shown me is not where I'm meant to be. So I have to trust. I have to trust that I know that I came here, and you especially, because through this podcast, you're helping a lot of people to make a bigger difference and use my passions. And The Seat of the Soul by Gary Zukav, he says, when your personality aligns with your soul, that's when you're really making a difference. And so I know that my soul came here with my personality to do something that is much more in line with, communicating and connecting with people and using these tips. Like, for example, at work, I led managing stress through mindful breathing sessions, and how you can help people lower their stress levels just through breathing.
Yeah.
And so those are the things that I want to be able to share with others.
So yesterday I saw Inside Out 2. Have you seen it?
Not yet, but I'm dying to.
Oh my God. You have to watch that movie. That movie is mandatory. Inside Out 1 and Inside Out 2 should be mandatory for every human to watch.
And soul.
And soul.
Yeah.
It just gives you that perspective of what's really happening inside your mind.
Right.
And who's behind the driver's seat.
Right.
And they're all there, right? All your emotions are there. They're not your enemies.
Right.
They're there to support you when you need the support, but having control over which driver you want
100%
to have behind the wheel, I think is where that self-awareness comes in. And so there's a scene in Inside Out 2. I don't want to spoil it for you. So I'm trying to think, is it gonna, no, I don't think so. There's a moment of a breakdown.
Okay,
that Riley, the main character, has. And she's breathing throughout that whole process. And she finally calms down and overcomes it. And later on that evening, after the movie, I asked my kids, so how do you think Riley handled that moment of breakdown?
I love that you asked them.
And they're 7 and 9. And without hesitation, they said, oh, breathing. She was just breathing.
Yeah.
Because there was no other thought. There was nothing going on. But she was breathing.
Yeah.
And I'm still trying to figure out what's the big deal with breath. I mean, first of all, I can't breathe. I have horrible allergies. So I appreciate the breath so much. And I can't wait till I've just had this enlightening experience through my amazing audio engineer, Diana, about what I need to do to finally clear my major sinus congestion.
Yeah.
And then I can breathe again and life will be grand. But aside from that purpose for just surviving.
I mean, is there any other purpose?
No.
Breath is literally the one thing we can't live without. We can go days without water, food, You can't go long without breathing.
But if you breathe on default, right? Your body already knows it needs to breathe. What difference does it make to purposely breathe for the body if the body's already doing it automatically?
Because it's learning how to control your breath. And that's what pranayama is learning how to control the breathing, the life force through your body. So we're naturally breathing through our stomach, diaphragmatic breathing. And your belly goes in and out. If you look at puppies and babies, they're usually breathing. You see, they're breathing because you can see their belly moving. As we've gotten older through life, that breathing starts coming through our chest. So when we start breathing, through our chest, that's because we're stressed and we're anxious and we're frightened. Like if you're in a stressful situation, like you start breathing through your chest because that starts activating all your parasympathetic nerves and all these things to put you into like your fight or flight response. And so what happens is through time, because we're living in such a stressed out society, our breath tends to now stay naturally up here in our chest. And so now we're always feeling anxious and we're always breathing through our chest, and it's shorter. And it's like feeling this, why am I anxious? I have nothing going on, but your breathing is through what's moving is through your chest. So when you learn to be mindful of your breathing and learn to practice through your belly, the diaphragmatic breathing, your breathing slows down. They become long and smooth. Your nerves start to settle. And so you can, like if you put one hand on your chest and one hand on your stomach, see which one's moving.
Well, now because you said it.
Yeah, exactly.
I have my diaphragm moving.
But that's a good way to do it is just
totally. I
look
never thought
and then
about that.
breathe in through your nose as your belly expands. And then as you breathe out through your nose, pull your belly button in. And if you do that just 3 times in a moment of stress, that will automatically just bring you down, even if you do it more. I'm studying the Yoga Sutras right now. And it talks about yoga is this controlling of the mind. And it's learning how, that's why everything to me always goes back down to meditation. If you can control your mind, if you can control your breathing, and you're able to find that stillness within, that's when you're able to then find more happiness and peace within your life.
Yeah.
And it's all like stems from there.
So I didn't know about, thank you for enlightening me in this because I didn't realize that it was due to the type of breathing that you were doing. Mm-hmm. So it's funny because I learned
diaphragmatic.
Diaphragmatic breathing when I was in chorus.
Oh.
Yeah. And so in singing,
yes,
that's
exactly
where your breath should come from. If not, it's short-lived.
Right.
Because
so you know the basis already.
And so the way that my teacher, she used to help me understand if I was breathing through my chest or through my diaphragm is to see my shoulders, to look at my shoulders. Mm-hmm. So if she saw us in a line and we were going like this, she's like, oh, no, you're not going to get that note. Yep. So one of the exercises that I'll never forget that she made us do is one time she had us all get on the floor and put our shoulders against the legs of the chair. Mm-hmm. And if the chair moved, it meant we were breathing through our chest.
Oh, wow.
And if the chair didn't move, it means that we were singing through our diaphragm.
So there's a yoga pose called Makarasana, crocodile pose, where you lay on your stomach and you put your hands, fold your hands in front of you and put your forehead on your arms. And so it creates a little cavity with your chest is sort of lifted up a little bit. And then if you just lay there for like 5 minutes, that's how I start all my yoga practice in the morning. And I just lay there for like 5 minutes doing diaphragmatic breathing because you're just breathing on your stomach.
It doesn't hurt?
No. It's just laying on your stomach with like your head on your forearms.
Oh, okay. But
your forehead on your arms.
The purpose is not to lift your body.
No, it's just okay. You just breathe naturally. Just lay and breathe. And you'll automatically start doing the belly diaphragmatic breathing.
I can talk to you forever about this. I think we should have like another 2 hours, but I do have to end in about a minute.
Okay.
So, what do you feel that our listeners should take away from today's conversation?
If you haven't started meditating, start now. Meditation is just single pointed focus. And the point of meditation is just consistency to help calm your thoughts down. You can do it for 3 minutes a day. You can do it for 1 minute. Just every day, just sit and focus on your breathing. Do diaphragmatic breathing. Find a space and like becomes a little ritual that every time you go to this corner, this is your meditation corner. It could just be a chair or whatever, and sit and just do 3 diaphragmatic breaths. Do a minute of diaphragmatic breathing, anything, and you're meditating. And if you can increase that over time, 1 minute leads to 3, leads to 5, leads to 15, I'm telling you, it will change your life. Everything starts, start with yourself.
Yeah.
Everything starts with yourself. And the more you can spend time with yourself, where you can sit in the discomfort of meditation, where you can sit in the discomfort of wanting to leave and wanting to move, you're going to see that applying through the rest of your life.
I love that. Veronica, honestly, thank you so much. I want to get up and hug you, but we have these mics in front of us.
Thank you
But
so much. I love you. I'm so proud of you. This was such a great conversation, and I'm very excited for all that's going to happen for you.
And I can't wait to see your podcast. I hope to be a guest on yours one day.
Yes, we'll see. We'll see. Come check it out. Spiritual in Action.
Okay.
I have on YouTube channel. I have the Instagram. I have the website. I just don't have content yet, but I will get there.
Spiritual
in Action.
In Action.
Yep.
Got it. Thank you, Veronica.
Thank you.